Please welcome to the stage your president of Idaho Technology Council, Jay Larson.
Thank you. Welcome to Capital Connect series with Idaho Technology Council. We're so pleased you can join us on this snowy day on the 14th of December, 2021. What a great day out here. We hope that you're going to have a great Christmas season and that you are able to find new ways to do things that will help you achieve your goals. But here's what we have going on right now. We are very focused on bringing people that have done unique things, that are building things that are happening, and we have a fantastic opportunity today to hear from Steve Burden with FACible. But before I get to that, I want to make sure we tell you how much we appreciate those sponsors that are bringing Capital Connect series live all the way. Our main sponsors are Holland & Hart and Alturas. But we also have two people who really function as our co-chairs. And it's really Brian Randolph with BR Wealth Management and also Jason Williams with BBSI. And Jason Williams helped us connect with our person that's going to be on today, Steve Burden. So it was fantastic. I also want to let you know that on the 10th of November, we had our first 50 to the A series where we celebrated 8 companies that reached the A round of funding, which is approximately $5 million to $20 million. And that was a fantastic event for us. If you ever have anybody that you think wants to get to the A round of funding or is planning on it, have them contact us through the IdahoTechCouncil.org website, and you can tell us about those companies. We've got about 60 companies on the runway that we think are going to be that, and we also have a group of advisors that are going to help us find ways to be able to get these companies the A round of funding as well. So that's it. The other thing that I want to let you know is that on the 12th of January, we have the Vision Idaho Conference, which is taking place over at Yonke Research Facility over at Boise State University. And we're going to be talking about how innovation is taking place throughout all the 6 economic regions and what's happening as a result of COVID and how more technology and innovation is taking place, whereas our main goal is to make it so Idaho is the most innovative state in the union. So with that being said, let's get on with this. We have a fantastic guest, Steve Burden with FACible. Let's welcome him to the stage. Steve. Good stuff, Steve. Thanks for coming. Please pull up a chair. Yeah. How do you like that music, Steve?
I like the smoke even better.
You got to smoke. I mean, it gets you going, doesn't it?
Yeah,
So
off the way.
Yeah, get it out of the way. So this is great. Thanks for making time. I'm glad you were able to get in your car and get over here this morning because of the snow. But tell us a little bit about you, if that's all right, Steve. First, talk about where you grew up and what kind of moved you to be able to start this, be the founder and CEO of FACible.
Yeah, I grew up in Western Washington, up in a tiny town on the Canadian border in the Puget Sound, so the last place you see before you go into Canada. I went to school just like most people do, exited school without really any kind of direction of what I wanted to do. At that point, I got a job.
But you met Bigfoot. That's what I want.
Yeah, no, I think he lives by my house. I heard him run around a few times. There's some weird. It's so dense there. The forest is so dense that you can miss a lot if you're not paying attention.
I understand.
So.
Yeah.
No, Bigfoot and I would go way back.
Okay.
So I went to school. I graduated. I got a job at ARUP in Salt Lake City. It's a big national reference lab. They say it's the biggest west of the Mississippi, which I believe it's massive. Really fell in love with a particular area of health, in vitro diagnostics, med tech, and went through more schooling to get a certification. I went out to a rural hospital in Southeast Washington, and it was there that I kind of had a lot of frustration. At ARUP, I had everything at my fingertips I'd need. There wasn't any need or want. And I get out to these hospitals, and there's nothing out there. They're underserved, right? And I experience a lot of nurses, doctors coming up and going, hey, can you make this run faster? Or can you rerun this to get a different result? Which the answer is obviously no. And they'd get frustrated with me, and I'd have to explain it to them. And really, it was just there's lack of quality diagnostics that can do this. So that was really kind of a formative period in my work experience. And on the personal side, like my mom would go, she's an older lady, gets urinary tract infections. She would go to the doctor, they'd prescribe her an antibiotic for her infection. And 2 days later, they'd call and say, guess what? You need to go get a different prescription because those don't no longer work on you. And these are nasty class antibiotics already, and she's in pain and suffering. And so I was like, there's got to be a better way. You know, the story of all entrepreneurs. There's a better way to do this. There's something else out there that can help.
So you had this happen at a hospital in southwestern Washington.
Southeast Washington.
Southeast Washington. And then you had that happen. And then obviously this with your mom. And so you're sitting there going, but you have to be in a good spot to be able to come up with these ideas. So
yeah, so I was like, okay, there's got to be something better out there. I don't know what it is. I'm going to go find out. At the time, Boise State had just started a PhD program that was very broad. To save you the trouble of pronouncing, it's the biomolecular science program at Boise State. So I was like, okay, a PhD sounds like a good opportunity here to learn more, investigate, sharpen my critical thinking skills. And as I got there, I was introduced to my mentor, my PI, that's what they're called, Eric Hayden. He's like, hey, he had just come from Stanford as a postdoc, and this is his first, he's on the tenure track here. And he's like, hey, have you ever heard of this technology? I was like, I'm pretty well versed in technology. I've never heard of it. And I spent my PhD working on it, going, hey, this is cool. As soon as I saw the application, I'm like, I can make something here. I can do something here.
And so talk about this technology. What's the technology?
It's actually earlier version of technology that FACible has developed. And it's called QLAD right now. And it stands for Quantum Logic Allonomer Analyte Detection. It's a big mouthful. And what it is we make these little DNA machines that grab onto something, and we can program them to grab onto a molecule, ion, small molecule, proteins, such as the spike protein of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. And when it does, it flips on a light switch. And it's all encompassed in itself. There's no complex workflows. It's very fast. It's near instantaneous. And it's very sensitive. And this is where FACible sits, is we have a technology that is fast, that is accurate, and that is adaptable to anything you want to detect, which is a unique trait.
So what happens when it flips on the light switch? Does that mean?
It's present.
Okay, so you know it's there.
We know it's there.
So that's that rapid testing part that's really becoming what you're.
And so ours is a little different. We geared ours towards a high throughput mechanism. So we saw early on that there's going to be a lot of at-home tests going on, and there was a population in testing that was underserved again, which is high throughput. So imagine trying to screen a stadium with a highly accurate, highly sensitive test. Like there's no technology out there that can really do it right now. That's where we focused on. TSA lines was kind of one of our cruise lines. Screening a lot of people really fast and without sacrificing accuracy is where we chose the niche to enter the market in.
Wow. And that's been a big, because if you take a look at COVID, that's been a big issue, right? With COVID is because you're sitting there and you always have these false negatives that takes place. You're not sure if it's right. I had somebody tell me the other day that if you didn't have it, well, if you thought you didn't have it, and you took the test, but it was really a negative. Yeah, it could have been a positive.
So this is a lateral flow test you're describing here.
Right.
We have a saying, if you're positive, you're positive.
Right.
If you're negative, you might as well have flipped a coin. That's how good the results are in the negative.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But they're fast.
But they're fast. Okay. Okay. Are they really fast?
They're really fast.
Okay.
So right now, like for us, we do since it's high throughput, about 20 minutes to turn around results.
Okay.
And they're about the same speed, and that's fast.
Wow.
PCR can take hours. PCR tests, which are the high sensitivity. So if you're negative, you're probably really negative. But wait times, the early pandemic were 14 days for PCR tests.
You sit there and you're supposed to be quarantined for 2 weeks, and you wouldn't get the results back until you're done with quarantine. Wow.
So why get tested?
Yeah. So talk about the testing that FACible does. Now that you have you've received 2 NIH grants to be able to help you with, right?
Yep.
What's differentiating your test that FACible does versus the other tests that are out there?
It really is the sensitivity. So how little virus has to be in a sample before we have a positive signal.
Okay.
So we are PCR, the gold standard right now is PCR. So a couple viruses in there, it can detect it, in theory. And so that's really is like, so we're not detecting genetic material like PCR, which can linger around in samples for weeks, we hear reports of. So we're actually detecting the physical spike protein. That's the harpoon that goes into your cell and attaches it to your cell.
Okay.
So we're detecting the physical presence of the virus, not just the genetic material. And so this is classified as an antigen test. And so we have the speed of the antigen test that we just talked about, 20 minutes, with the sensitivity of PCR. So we kind of bridge both worlds. And usually there's a sacrifice. Either you're fast
right.
or you're sensitive. You're not
You give
both.
up one or the other, right?
Yeah, and we've kind of found this sweet spot where we can say, hey, we're both sensitive and fast.
Wow, and this was all developed by you, your team, and the Boise State crew, or?
Yeah, so I mean, I did my work at Boise State. It was really foundational work. It was in a different system, different use case, different set of IP, and I brought on my chief science officer, who was actually a postdoc in my lab at the time. Her name's Clementine Bohacci, and she really took it and ran with it and made it what it is today.
Wow.
So I just kind of sat there and went, oh, try and do this, try and do that. And she's like, oh, I'm going. And she really made some significant strides in the technology.
So she's one of the co-founders?
She's a co-founder. She's my chief science officer. She's my right hand here at FACible.
Who else do you have from a talent, that's helped you start FACible?
Yeah, so we had John Reek, who was our original chief product officer. He's going back to Boise State to try to become a professor, but we still interact with him. It was a good, splitting, but he had other things he wanted to do in his life, and we're hopefully working with him in the future.
Yeah.
He's got some very interesting things coming up that can plug into FACible that we're really excited about. So he's one of the co-founders. We have an early officer that came in, Brent Fossen, who's our chief operating officer. He's really freed me up to do what I love to do, which is kind of sit in the technology zone,
yes.
but still kind of guide the ship. Brent really has been helpful there. He came out of another medical device company here locally, Salt. It's a menstrual cup company that he helped start up.
Oh, Salt, yeah.
Yep. So he's one of the original founders there, exited out, and has been with us since. We have a virologist and another PhD scientist that are our magical hands that do everything that they're trained to do, and they've been instrumental. So Hunter Covert and Ken Tuara.
Within that. This is the interesting thing is when we talk, this is also, you can identify, so COVID was a big thing that you were able to really help accelerate FACible, right?
Accelerate us, to kickstart us.
But you could test a lot of infectious diseases all the way through. I mean, this is what's so amazing about your product. It's just not COVID-19, but it's multiple infectious diseases, right?
Yeah, so I mean, people need to measure the health, the animals need to measure their health, and plants need health gauges, and the environment needs health gauges, and we span all of that. We're focused on coronavirus right now. It really did springboard us into accelerated development times, accelerated funding times. But we do plan eventually to come back out of the human market into animals and plants and environment.
Oh, wow.
I think like for the environment, like testing your water for lead. It's a hot topic right now, especially in Michigan. But that's an area where we feel that this is a prime position for us to be in the future.
So you could test it, and yours would be able to be easily able
Yep.
to go in and test multiple areas. Like even if I had, like this year, if I had the flu strain and I wanted to see if I really had it, I could go at some point. Maybe FACible would be able to. I could take a test.
At some point, yes.
Yeah.
So right now it's a lab test. There's a lot of. So what we did is we took complexity of workflow. We engineered it into our chemistry, the
Yeah.
liquid that goes into everything.
Right.
And like I said, we focused on that high throughput market, which is a moderate to high complexity test market. But the technology has always been in my mind, and in the team's mind, it's been a point of care type of test. So this is where people like you can come in and use it. Eventually, getting it into people's homes, have a low cost reader that goes with it.
Yeah.
it's suitable. It's primed for that. That's where it needs to be. That's where the most impact is going to be.
But it's going to be much more like a pregnancy test, you know.
Yep.
But it's going to be something that's very multi-dimensional that you
Yep.
could use.
So our next product, the ones we're raising funds for right now, is a 6-plex respiratory pathogen panel.
Oh, wow.
And it's going to be read in 5 minutes. So right now, our current read time, from our last step to when the test is ready to read, it's 5 minutes. So we're already there. It's very fast. And it's going to check for flu A, flu B, RSV. We're going to see if we can get strep in there for kids that have strep
Nice.
throats,
Good idea.
pneumonia, common upper respiratory tract infections. We think we can get all in this multiplex panel.
This is going to be crazy. It's interesting. I was having this thing with Clayton Christensen, and he talked about this innovative disruption.
Yep.
How do you see this disrupting the rapid testing space that you're doing right now? I mean, is this going to
I see it blowing it up.
Blowing it up. Right?
In 5 years, you're going to look back at how you measure your health,
Yeah.
and it's going to be comparable to how I looked back at the internet 10 years ago with dial-up. Like, how could I have surfed the internet on such a
Right.
slow speed? And you'll be like, well, how could I really know what's going on with my health without these type of diagnostics?
And you don't have that right now. I mean, you don't have immediate.
You don't have it.
I mean, the idea that everything's taking place with the internet and everything is the immediacy of information, right? But if you take a look at that, it hasn't happened with respect, and COVID's even identified this, like the 14 days, remember we had to get all the testing? That was crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
It shocked us too.
Yeah.
Not only the immediacy of the data, but the cost of data acquisition.
Right.
So you talked about being able to tell what strain of flu you have. Like, we can do that. We choose not to do it now because its treatment doesn't vary based on what strain
Right.
of COVID you have. But we have the ability to generate data based on strains, H1N1, H3N7, H5N, whatever. Even though we'll report out flu A, flu B, because that's all the doctor really cares about.
Yeah.
That data is so much more valuable, and it costs us the same to collect it.
Wow.
To put that much data density in these tests, I mean, I'm trying to wrap my mind around how this data can be modeled, how it can be used, how it can be used to influence things like shipping packages
Yeah.
and things like that. There's just so much data available, and the cost it's very inexpensive right now.
Yeah, I would just, this is great. I would encourage anybody to go buy FACible stock right now. I guess it's not on the.
It's not on the market yet.
It's not on the New York Stock Exchange. It's not on the NASDAQ. But anyway, I'm just kidding. But here's the thing about it, Steve. You're doing some amazing things right now. Now, let me ask you a question on that. Did you, when you were growing up, was it Dylan? What was the name of your?
Blaine.
Blaine. Just, just outside of the U.S.-Canadian border with amazing place. Did you ever think that you were going to be this entrepreneur that was going to be transforming human
Not a
health? Right?
Not a clue. Even as I was in my PhD, I didn't have a clue that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
It wasn't until one of my investors that was one of my earliest investors, I knew him before this, and he said, Stephen, he's a business guy. He goes,
Yeah.
hey, PhD's cool and all, but do something there you can make money off of. I was like, well, that's not really what I'm focused on. He's like, I know, but find a technology that you can start up a company around because you'll be the best purveyor of this technology. So that was the moment that I was like, that's an option to me. I can do that.
And who is this again? Who is
This is Matt Hawkins. He is my lead investor. He happens to be my brother-in-law.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's good.
so,
that helps too.
it's a close network there.
Yeah. But that was good advice, though, right? Because then it's almost like it's one of the big things that people have always suggested whenever I've started about 9 different companies, but before they always said, find something that will make a difference in people's lives. But they say, if you want to even know, find something that makes a difference in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can, you will take that, you'll internalize it, you'll have more energy because of it. And think about what that's doing for you, like your mom.
Oh, you have to have it.
Yeah, you have to
You
have,
have to
right?
have it.
So let's go to the next question on this. So now you've started this, you've identified that this is something you want to do. How much, talk about maybe the top things that you've learned along the way since you've started FACible.
The biggest thing, because I think about this a lot, the biggest thing is don't be afraid to make a decision. I come up against people that are like, hey, how'd you start it? I'm scared of starting a company.
Right.
Don't be afraid. go do. If that's what you're passionate about, that's what you believe in, that's what you have determined is the best path forward for you, make the choice. Go do it. Or don't. But don't sit there and go, my biggest thing was I never wanted to regret not choosing to do something.
Yeah.
I should have done that. I never want to have that. That's been my philosophy since high school.
Yeah.
I don't want to miss out because I just was afraid to make a choice.
Which the atrophy of sometimes making choices causes you to atrophy potentially, right? Where you're not going to make the decision. So you're saying that you actually wanted to make sure. We had somebody that was on our 50 to the A, and he actually talked about how the big thing about making a decision is and failure is you have to fail fast, fail frequently, and fail cheap or something like that.
Check.
Yeah.
Mostly check.
Mostly check. So now you're making these decisions. So that's a good advice. So I like that. What's the next piece of advice?
Find people that are smarter than you and bring them into your team. However you can, whether it's a piece of your company, whether it's financial upside, I have people that I swear are smarter than me. They are smarter than me. Clem for one, Brent for the other.
Yeah.
My scientists they're all smarter than me. I'm the dumbest guy in the room, I think. So
You're probably being, but I think that's
they're really smart.
They're really good, and that's
really smart.
That's what's going to make FACible even more of a disruptive technology, right?
Yeah, and there's double-edged sword there because they're new to this field, so there's some ignorance there that we have to work through, but they're not constrained by what has been done or what is normally done.
Good point.
And so we're free to think outside the box, and that's my big thing. So I'm the med tech, so I know how users. I was a user, right? I use the technology. I've been through a wide breadth of it, and I wasn't satisfied. So that's an anchor point. But they're going in, hey, can we do it like this? Can we do it like this? I'm going, oh, we can try.
Yeah, and you're not becoming mired down in other preconceived notions that could potentially stifle creativity.
That's what other people are trying to do to us. Like, you should do this. That's the biggest pet peeve. Like, you should have done this.
Yeah.
No, I shouldn't have. I'm happy where we're at today. Can it be better? Yes. Do we have lessons learned? Absolutely. But the ability to look at it and go, the real problem here is price of data acquisition, right? How can we make this a better test that doesn't sacrifice? Just to be able to ask ourselves those questions, I feel like is partly because we don't come from a long line of big, well-established technology developers in the space.
Yeah.
Because they just come in and there's innovation there, but it's a lot of process and they follow a certain thing. And
yeah, and you're the big accomplishment you're making is because you don't have to break down these walls because you're actually making something that's going to be new and creative.
I feel like we're making a new category of diagnostics. That's
awesome.
That's what we're doing, and that's what everyone is goal to do now. So It's an ambitious goal.
As you looked at it, one of the big things is to measure where capital comes in. For instance, you take a look at Cradlepoint.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a company where a gentleman, Pat Sewell, spun off of HP. He had 8 rounds of funding by the time he made the big exit, where George Mulhern and his team sold to, had the merger and acquisition with Ericsson. So that was, it's a lot of iterative processes. Talk about what you've learned on the capital front.
It's harder than it sounds. There are a lot of people there that think it's a cool technology, but it's outside of their risk profile, and that's okay. There's no hard feelings there. But being able to articulate this technology has been so hard. It caught me by surprise, and even to this day, I still struggle with being precise and yet conveying the future of this technology. And partly because it hasn't fully formed in my mind or my team's mind, because there's so many ways it could go. We always say we could die of indigestion, not starvation, for ideas.
I like that, yeah.
And so conveying this to the early, the angels and the high net worth individuals that are seed funders typically, they want focus and they want to know where it's going to be in 5 years, 10 years. And it's really hard to convey that without cheapening the message, if I can, to really say, hey, this could be the biggest thing that's come out of Idaho, just based on market size. It's billions and billions. The human market's $60 billion annually in the U.S. Worldwide, it's $120 billion. That's just humans. And that's just, a certain subset of tests. It's just so massive, but
And the animal one is crazy when you take
animals
a look.
are even harder to gauge because there's not a lot of good data on the
Right.
animal market because it's
Right.
emerging. Pets, your cats and dog tests,
Yeah,
like
E. coli, any
E.
of this
coli
stuff.
in the water. I mean, it's
Yeah.
so hard to quantitate it, and that's what they want to see this in the exit plan. I'm like,
And plants. I mean, you take a look at recalls
Crops.
on crops and stuff. Yeah.
I mean, it's just staggering. And to put that in a nutshell, and sometimes I have 15 minutes to do this or less.
Right. I understand.
And it's just, that has been the biggest thing, is my ability to communicate and manage the expectation of what this can be, because I don't want to cheapen it. Like this is fun. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's fantastic. You want to keep the grand vision of what you have for FACible, right? That's going on.
Yep.
But at the same time, you've got to sit there and have the segmentation that takes place
Yeah.
in order for you to be able to reach the audience that you want to have in the focus, but yet still keep the grand vision.
And
on,
every
right?
person's different on what they want to hear. And, this has been the biggest learning experience, is
Yeah.
it's custom tailored every time I talk to someone.
How much money did you got from the National Institute of Health?
So we're just under $1 million from them, over 3/4 under $1 million. I don't remember the exact number, through 2 grants.
Okay.
And they're all COVID tested relating. And they've been really excited. We're actually pitching today to get another set of funding from them for a bigger work package from them. So fingers crossed there.
Yeah. And one of the biggest things you have right now is that you have to have the FDA approve your product, right? And so that's a big obstacle, but it's a big opportunity that you have to work through, right?
Yep, it's a double-edged sword. For the human health, to have any kind of market size, you have to have FDA regulation. So right now there's emergency use authorization that we're seeking for our COVID tests. Outside the animal space, there's their own regulation, not FDA, but similar. And so really they're the gatekeeper of technology.
Yeah.
When you go out to international markets, it's, do you have an FDA? Same domestically, do you have an FDA authorization? Once you do, the market is just massive.
The interesting thing about this is, so I just had a son and his family move back from Hong Kong, right? So they had to go, before they went to the airport, at 24 hours they had to have the test done before they came.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an expensive deal. If yours, what you could do, would yours, so you're talking about fitting in this space where you could actually find out in 5 minutes?
Yeah, 20 minutes right now.
Yeah, 20 minutes.
So really, I think like this scenario right here is perfect for a TSA line check.
Right.
Before you get in the line, you get a swab. That swab goes into some magical back room that happens. And 20 minutes later, even half an hour later, depending on how many people they have, the results are there by the time you get through TSA. High sensitivity, PCR grade sensitivity, but still rapid.
But that's awesome. So, okay, so let's a couple more questions, and we'll the capital side. What's the future of what you see happening for? Talk a little bit about. Now we've kind of established where we are today. What do you see happen in the next 2 to 5 years with FACible?
So we actually signed our first purchase order 2 weeks ago.
Oh, really?
So we have a partnership out in India. They demoed it. They liked it. They bought more. So
Nice.
We'll put that on the books for next year. But that was great news for us.
Now that was your first one?
First purchase order.
Purchase order, okay.
Yep. And then we had a LOI signed for 18 million units for next year, pending FDA authorization, of course. The purchase order was not pending FDA.
Because they don't need to have the FDA approval,
They
right?
want to use it a very different way, and we're cool with that. So they want our technology in their hands. The LOI is FDA pending. We think we'll have significant revenue this year once the FDA is all settled. We are still raising money right now. We are starting our Series A raise, and we're going to use a unique mechanism. It's called the Regulation A+ mechanism. So it's a mini IPO. That's what it's known as. It allows us to go out to individuals, high net worth individuals, accredited and non-accredited, retail investors, and sell pieces of our company to them like you would in a traditional public offering, but it's not on a public listing. So when you talked about being able to buy stock in our company, launch date in March, that could be reality.
Oh, so put that down, March. watch for this.
Targeted March.
Targeted March.
Maybe May.
Let it with some, but watch for that. That's great. So mini IPO. That's tremendous. And then the main products you'll have are going to hit human health. Then you'll hit animal health, and then plant health at some point.
Yeah, that's the tentative schedule. It's very soft, but we want to do animals next.
Awesome.
I couldn't tell you when that's going to be, if it's 3 years or 4 years or 2 years.
Yeah. All right. So an entrepreneur, people are watching and they're saying, "All right, Steve, give me my top advice you can give now that you've been through some battles. You've got some,
Yeah.
you got scars to show for it.
It requires a thick skin.
Okay.
Make the choice and go with it. Just feed in, find something you love, dive into it, and don't regret starting it. Don't look back. Just
go do it.
Just go do it.
So can we do this? There's going to be a lot of happening in the next 12 months, right? Mm-hmm. Can we see if we can get you back in 8 to 12 months and talk again on this
Love to.
Capital Connect series?
Yep.
So, because I think what will happen is there'll be a lot more that we can actually go into, and then the next steps and next iterations are going to be coming pretty fast for you. If FDA approval, when FDA approval comes, I mean that seems like it opens the floodgates for you, right?
Yep.
So, yeah. So let's put a pause on this right now, and if you would do me a favor, of all things, would you have a good Christmas season?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's all. That's all we need. That's all we ask.
It's a great Christmas season.
Yeah. And if I could, on the last part, this is what we like to do. And this is kind of get your personality, okay?
Okay.
If you were an animal, what kind of animal would you be and why?
Sasquatch.
Yes. Yes.
They're mythical.
Mythical. Mythical and unique.
Unique, transformative. People are always hunting for them.
Yeah.
Because high demand, that one.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. There it was right here. You hear it. Steve would like to be Sasquatch. I love it. So that's awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Steve Burden,
thank you.
from FACible. We've had a tremendous deal. Please join us on the 12th of January, where we have the opportunity to have Vision Idaho. It will be virtually done, broadcast through the Idaho Technology Council YouTube channel, and it will also be one that's going to be live. So if you want to attend, it will be over at the Yankee Research Facility at Boise State. We also will be talking about I think the governor will be with us, and we'll be talking about all 6 economic regions and what's happening throughout Idaho. But if you can do something for us between now and the first of the year, just have a great time with family and friends, and celebrate the Christmas season, and look for ways to be able to innovate and create more better quality life for yourself and those that you come in contact. So thank you very much. Have a great Christmas season, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks so much, Steve Burden.
Thank you.
Let's hear it for Steve Burden.